How I survived my first year in prison. Let's get into it. A lot of people ask, how do you survive your first year in prison? Well, it's pretty interesting. For me, my first year in prison was a very fast paced, sensory overload experience. It's different from different perspectives. Mine's from a staff perspective. Inmates and staff have different experiences in their first year. Mine was walking into a prison, never being in prison, never breaking the law, but then becoming a staff person coming in. You see a lot of things on TVs and movies about how prison is, but the experience is different when you actually live it. On TV, it's all about violence and sensationalism. It's about uh, people being monsters and killers and all these things that you see in the movies. But when you experience it firsthand as a new staff person, it's totally different. It's more of learning how to navigate not only the staff people, but the inmates. For me, it was more of being overwhelmed of information. When you first walk into a prison, all you hear is keys and radio traffic from the radios that the officers wear, the um, sounds from the control room that is coming across the radios, walking into the security part of it, driving into the facility, and you look at the building and it looks so eerie and it looks so cold, and then getting into the processing of just walking through the process of walking into the front of the building and the sounds of the big heavy door slamming behind you, and you're experiencing everywhere you go, the doors are locked behind you and you're confined. uh you go through an orientation process of teaching you how to navigate, and just being able to navigate through the building. You have the experience of being a new staff person, not only for the other staff people, but for the inmates as well. The inmates are trying to figure out who the hell you are, what you're doing, because if you're not a correctional officer, you're in plain clothes and they don't know whether you're a counselor, kitchen worker, librarian, a chaplain. They don't know who you are. So the inmates are trying to figure out who you are, what you're about, how they're going to deal with you. The staff people are trying to figure out who you are and how they're going to deal with you. So your first year is just about people figuring out who you are and you figuring out who they are. Um, I know for me, it was like people were trying to figure out who the hell I was because I worked in a predominantly white facility. I mean by staff and inmates. So the inmates had a big adjustment figuring out who I was, why I was there, and if I was a permanent fixture. The staff had to figure out who I was and how to relate to me, and me to how I was going to relate to them. So my first year was all about survival. It was, excuse me, it was about figuring out how I was going to survive and navigate this whole system. And I know from the first day I walked into the building, I was trying to figure out whether I was going to be a short-term person or was it going to be a career? You know, I used to always say, people used to always tell me, don't worry about the inmates, worry about the staff, because your staff is going to be your bigger problem, and your staff is going to be the ones that stab you in the back. The inmates, not so much. And as I navigated that whole system, I come to figure out real quick that that was true. Um, you can figure out inmates pretty quickly. Staff is more difficult because a lot of staff people are snakes. They are people that talk good to your face and stab you in the back. So you really don't know how to measure that until you can kind of figure it out who they are, who's the suck asses, who's the people that's going to go up and tell on you about something stupid to try to get yourself ahead. Because people think by telling on you, it's going to get them a promotion or get them in with the powers that make all the decisions. That's not always the case. It's not always the way to get ahead. But being loyal to each other and loyal to staff is something that you develop. You develop rapport with people. You develop a bond with people as you work with them. And the rats and the people that stab you in the back, they think they get ahead, but in the end, they usually screw themselves because nobody wants to be around them and everybody figures them out pretty quickly. But my first year and the way I survived was I was loyal to myself and loyal to my character, and I was loyal to my coworkers. Never was one for stabbing people in the back. Never was one for telling on people. Just figured out that I had to be loyal to myself, loyal to my coworkers, and you'll get along much better. As for the inmates, if you are honest with them, straightforward with them, no bullshit, and you are consistent every day, you'll get along. You'll be able to have a long career and have respect. No matter if it was a staff person or an inmate, you have to be you have to be the same every day. You can't be hot and cold. You can't be one day you're going to bullshit with them, next day you're going to write them up for something stupid. And as far as staff people go, if people see that you are consistent, people see that you are the same every day, you're going to get along a lot better. But as soon as people figure out that you are hot and cold and you betray people's trust and you stab people in the back, people don't want to have nothing to do with you. And as you navigate through surviving like I did my first year, it's all about being yourself. Don't be phony, be who you are every day, no matter who walks in the door. I don't care if it's from the warden down to the CO1 or the office assistant or whoever. Just be consistently who you are, and people will respect you for that. But if you're different when the warden walks in, or you're different whenever the uh, commissioner or somebody shows up, then people see you for who you are, and that's fake. And I was never fake. I was always the same with people who had rank, didn't have rank, whatever. If you are the same all the time to everybody, then you're going to get along. but the way you survive is being authentic and being yourself. Don't be the guy that kisses ass one moment and stabs you in the back the next, because people read that, can see through that, and people don't want to be around you. I survive by being authentic, being the same person every day, and with no matter if it's with staff or inmates, if you start your career that way and you end your career that way, then people will respect you that way. But if you're the person that is hot and cold, biggest bullshit in the world, lies just to get along, two-faced, all that kind of stuff, you're not going to make it. Corrections is a hard business to be in. Working in a prison sucks. Um, Inmates give you shit. Administration gives you shit. It's a thankless job. That's why the divorce rate is so high in corrections, because of the stress and the affairs, just the constant um, tension, and that's why there's a lot of suicides among correctional officers, things like that, and the trauma of just being in an environment, seeing people hurt each other, stab each other. Um, you just get to see a lot of different traumas. In order to survive that, you got to be open to talking about it and not holding all that stuff in, because you develop, you know, PTSD and all that kind of stuff, because you see so much, and corrections is kind of like the forgotten um, profession, because you know people talk about police officers and soldiers and all these people having PTSD, but the corrections people have it because you see so much on a daily basis. It's like a slow wound. It's like getting cut, death by a thousand cuts. But the only way you are ever going to survive is by talking about it, getting therapy, and stay away from drinking and bringing that stuff home, because when you bring it home, that's why there is so much divorce. There is so much pain that goes with it. And you got to get out of that darkness, because if you can survive your first year, you have a shot. But the first major event that you're involved in, whether it be a suicide, a attack, or whatever, that's going to either determine whether you're going to make it or not. Because a lot of people that are in corrections, the first suicide they come upon, or the first major assault they see, and somebody gets stabbed or something like that, you're going to find out whether this is right for you, if this is the job for you. If you can't see that, because you can't ever unsee something. So once you experience it, then you got to process it. Once you process it, you'll find out whether or not this is something that you can handle. And if it's not something you can handle, then you get out early. But don't stay in it just because it pays good, because eventually you're going to crack, and you're either going to do something stupid, get compromised, or you're going to get yourself hurt. And the only way that you're going to make it that first year and survive is ask questions, learn from the veterans, the old heads, learn from the inmates that you deal with, watch and learn and seek information, and you may be able to survive. But like I always say, just always stay on the other side, and you won't have to worry about a lot of these things.